Good evening, we are back with a week off and we are back with a panel of four all over again, ready to talk as we do best on this show. Join us as we walk you through Lincolnshire in the next hour, all on tonight's Loose Links. Hello, joining me, Nicholas James, on the panel tonight is Sanjay Hitwell.
Good evening.
Mike Curtis. And Claire Brown in there. As we have that ultimate discussion of the McCanns, it's come back up again as they've found a new suspect that could be involved in it. But we go back to that story and talk about that story on even leaving your child somewhere else as you go for a drink. Also, we celebrate Laura Whitmore as she claps back to her not so-called fans who say that she's only got the position on Love Island because of the partner she is with. Do we believe women are still fighting for a place over men? And we finish on our very own panellist, Chris Clark, as he is setting up a Christmas to remember this year with Basil Brush and other people. So we have a discussion about childhood memories. All that on tonight's show. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Hi, how are we all? Are you all right? This has been like a beg panel almost because we're on bank holiday. It's been a nightmare to get four of us together, but we've actually gone through it and got four of us together. But I apologise for last week. It was me not very well. I'm back up and running again, and we'll start with not last week's but the week before polls. So they were. First one was, in difficult times such as we are in now, children will be going to school and talking about and been discussing stuff over the dinner table. Does this happen regularly anymore? 48% of you said yes, 38% of you said no. Sex in relationships take up a big part of a couple's life, but shouldn't this be kept private and behind closed doors? 43% of you said no, it shouldn't be kept behind closed doors, and 57% of you said yes, it should be. And the final one was, as the family age, do we feel pressured into looking after elderly members in their final years? 72% of you said no, and 28% of you said yes. So it's your show as well as ours. Make sure you join in with those topics and discussions and stuff like that. But we'll move forward to this week's chat as we start on a very serious note, really. Mike, it's always serious when you're on. We never have light and fluffy. It's never there. Madeleine McCann's parents have welcomed news that a German man has been formally made a suspect over the 3-year-old's disappearance. Kate and Joey McCann said it reflects progress in the investigation, adding they still hoped to be reunited with Madeleine, who went missing in 2007. Can you believe it's 2007 she went missing?
It's scary for you to say same age as my daughter.
But I do want to go back to this story. So, Mike, do you think it's right to leave your children on their own while parents are elsewhere having a drink?
Oh, Nick, that's a bit of a boom for the first question straight in, isn't it? You know, there's no wonder your viewings decline when I'm on. I've got mixed views on it. Surprise. I don't feel that anyone, because the undercurrent is you're asking me, do I think it was right that they left their child alone? And I guess I've got really mixed feelings. I don't understand the thoughts and the feelings behind why someone would make that decision, but I personally would not be leaving a child of that age alone in a foreign country, but the decision was made, wasn't it? And the consequence of that is what we're discussing today, really.
I mean, as a parent, I wouldn't leave a 3-year-old on her own there. If I couldn't take my daughter with me, I would stay at home and just, do something together. I've done that with her before when we've been on holiday. It's just been me and her, and I know we just sit in our caravan or whatever, or chalet or whatever, and we just sit down and we watch TV or we do things together. I wouldn't go out without her on holiday. If she wasn't going to go, then I wasn't going to go.
Well, again, if you're going on holiday as a family holiday, then even if your children are 3 years old, if you as a couple, you either one of you stay back. And then the other one goes out, because of course they were with friends, or you do get a babysitter in. And this is my personal view. You've took your children away. Why leave them alone? Yes, you want your downtime, but really, if that's the case, then you should have had a different holiday, not one where you're going to put the children to sleep and then go off and have drinks and something to eat. I don't think it's right at all, especially in a foreign country. I mean, you just don't know.
I mean, this has been the question since 2007. Why? And actually, the latest press articles around Christian and the potential formal connection to him as a suspect. I think for me, Nick, I think we need to move past why they were left on their own. I think we all struggle with it, but I'm not a parent. But, I have nieces, I have nephews, and, we've got two panelists that are parents. The guilt that they've probably been tortured with since 2007 far succumbs anybody ever saying, why did you leave your child alone? Because the consequence is just horrific, isn't it? And it's just heartbreaking to think potentially what has happened to that little girl and how they've discovered this potential person. And I guess the potential implications of the police and how they responded to the matter at the time. We know that evidence was lost. It's just quite heartbreaking, really, isn't it?
I'm on the fence. I'm completely and utterly on the fence, because I will admit this. My eyes are very much glued on the parents. Because there's just little things that doesn't add up to me. So, for example, there was 2 children in that room, but one child was taken and not the other one. I can't get that in my head at all. If you're going to kidnap, you don't leave another child. If you're going to take children, you take both from the room, don't you? You wouldn't just leave one from the room.
I think it just depends on the
Have we lost her? But let's carry on until she's back. But and there was a kids club that plays on my mind completely. It was announced that there was a kids club there where you could go and leave your child for a couple of hours and go and socialise. So, okay, maybe the kids club wasn't open at night, but what's there to say that they stay in at night? They go, okay, we'll stay in at night, but we'll put the kids in the kids club tomorrow and we'll have a couple of drinks by the pool. I don't understand why you would think in your brain. I agree with you, Mike. I don't have children. I don't have children at all. But I have a nephew, and I know for an absolute fact that I would not leave my nephew in a room in a foreign country that I didn't know. And I know when you look at the news article, the doors here and the pools there, it's not miles away from where they're staying, but you are still leaving 2 vulnerable people in a room. Does anybody want to jump on that?
Oh, totally. Like I say, just even if you weren't a parent, I mean, I know it's going back to the same thing, and then as what Mike said, for the past 15 years, which in 2 days, it's to the day, 15 years this happened, and they've had to endure this pain and suffering for that length of time. But whenever did they decide to leave a 3-year-old and another child on their own? You know, I mean, was the door locked? What if there was a fire? You know, there's other implications, not just for the fact that somebody's got in and stole one child. You know, there could have been other things. And like I say, not just as a parent, I just can't understand how anybody on holiday or at home, even if they are so close, would leave a 3-year-old child unattended. I just baffled.
I think it's really difficult to keep on talking about why would you leave the babies, and potentially this is, I think, what we may discover if Christian is formally charged with the kidnap, and I understand it to be potentially murder of Madeleine McCann, because obviously we don't have a body, do we? We don't know where she is.
No.
But
Right. So is Christian? Is his surname
Bruckner? So he's
right,
currently
okay.
in Germany, isn't he?
Right.
At the
Yeah.
moment?
No. Yeah. Well, like I say, how come again, nearly 15 years on, is he in the pipeline for this abduction, come now murder, whatever? You know, he's got done for drug offence in Germany, and then he got 7 years for raping a 72-year-old. So why all of a sudden, I mean, he's been called, my language is not very good, arguido, and that's a name for a suspect or a formal suspect or a person of interest. You know, so in Portuguese law, it's no longer possible to declare someone a person of interest beyond that date. So in 2 days' time, he can't be one of those, you know, but all of a sudden they've got this guy and they are going to charge him or, you know, whatever. How ironic is that?
And the other difficult thing is as well, I think this is only my personal opinion, so anybody can disagree with me, is that we've gone off the parents far too fast. And what I'm saying about we've gone off the parents far too fast is we've had a case recently where there was video evidence of a child being abused. There was in the news, I can't remember the parent's name, and the parents were outside the house saying he was a nightmare and he was this, that and the other, and actually it was proven that they were abusing him. Now, we've had evidence in the past that Madeleine McCann's blood was found in her father's boot. There was a trace of blood in the boot. But we've all seemed to forgotten about that. And we've all seemed to go, well, it can't be the parents. But actually, not all parents are nice out there. Surely you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
I can see his brain ticking. I'm waiting for the comeback. Come on, tell me what you're thinking.
No, I'm really struggling with this tonight because I think I understood that the reason why there was potential interconnections to Christian is that they potentially discovered child pornography in his care and a potential image of Madeleine. Now, and that is my understanding. That might not be correct. So, and I understood that he'd then done a series of attacks, and this is what it comes. What we have to really think about. I know it's quite a difficult topic to adjust to. So there are multiple streams of sex offenders, aren't there? So you hear the term paedophile, but that's actually one criminal term for a sex offender. There are multiple. So that potentially could be an avenue why the 2 children weren't taken, the babies, and the elder child was, because she fulfilled a purpose and a need.
Like I said earlier.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. And what we have here is a perpetrator that potentially attacks. There's a criminal clinical term for a sex offender that attacks elderly. Like, for example, necrophilia is a form.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to articulate here is there's something about the switch which is quite dark and psychological to his need, this perpetrator. And I understand that when they previously had approached him, because I'm going off of sort of my own reading, that there was an understanding that he had previously been questioned and had been involved. But again, I could be wrong. I don't know the exact details, obviously. I weren't there and I weren't present. but trying to put my thinking in line, I recall from somewhere, but again, please don't quote me, that he had also disclosed in prison that he had been involved in the situation. So I think there's an accumulation of things. I think, we know, don't we, about the parents, and there's been countless books, countless news articles, thousands of pounds. I mean, I think you just said, don't you, Claire, this is that they've only got a limited amount of time left before they can start to give like a formal prosecution. I've been reading about that today, which is really quite interesting because I didn't know that. But I think we just have to sort of, when we think about topics like this, come into it with a very open mind and try and we can have an opinion. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion, but when we start to try and understand the reasons why a sexual perpetrator commits the crimes that they do, it's much more vast than choice at times, well, there is an element of choice. Of course, I do believe adults know the difference between right and wrong. I absolutely do. But the theory and the approach to it is incredibly fast. And I'm not a criminologist or a psychologist, so I wouldn't profess to be one, but I just think, it's an incredibly dark topic. And I think for those parents, my heart absolutely bleeds for them, because I think, I absolutely would love to hear that their daughter is alive and well, and perhaps maybe just in some other family, because that's been a theory as well, hasn't it? There's been various sightings of Madeleine McCann. I think they'd even said potentially in Europe. I think they've seen her on several occasions, haven't they? As she's grown older, or people that could make a blueprint of her. Is that the right term? A blueprint or a picture? Should we just say picture? Have I got that right? Maybe.
Yeah, kind of aged her to what she may look like now.
Yeah, like there were a sighting potentially. Weren't there some? I don't know if anyone saw the Netflix documentary. I found that incredibly fascinating. It was quite lengthy about it, and that was only last year. And I think that's because of the build up to this, Claire. You're right. I remember it being released in lockdown. The build up to that, we've got limited time for prosecution, not prosecution, but that sort of, combination of prosecution and actually being able to move the case forward in terms of Portuguese law. So what I'm getting to, I'm doing a lot of this tonight, is that, there's been sightings, I think, even in sort of gas stations days after, where they felt they'd seen a girl that could match a resemblance. I think what's more heartbreaking is what we discover is the vast sexual paedophile ring that was around the site and the dark web, which we all know. We've all heard of the dark web and its complications for child protection, but just how vast the actual child abuse arena was in Portugal at that time. And as somebody that visits Portugal, it's quite stomach turning, isn't it, to think that you're in a lovely holiday destination. And I know that we have sex offenders and paedophile rings in the UK. I'm not saying that we don't, but I think to find out how embedded it was at that time there is really scary for any parent, really.
And that's just my view. The abuse that carries on as well, that we don't even think about if you really, really think about it, because if she is like living a normal everyday life, if she is got friends and she's got family and she's got those people have got to shut. You're not telling me if she's living a normal everyday life that she hasn't seen a news article about it. She hasn't seen this missing girl that went missing in 2007. Those people have to shut those stories down quick. And so it's not like, because we don't know, do we? We could go down so many avenues. It could be sex offender. It could be somebody that was just dying for a child and was never given the opportunity of a child, and the child was there to take. And I'm not saying that that's right in any. But if Madeleine McCann is in everyday life, in education, in a family home and stuff like that, their abuse has to carry on and carry on and carry on to make her mindset not question, is that me?
We do know.
But she also has that thing with her eyes, that thing with her eyes. She has a mark on her eyes, doesn't she? In the cornea of her eyes, which they are using to try and identify her as well.
It's just unusual. Kerry, I don't know if anybody's ever known, but Kerry's got like spots in her eyes, like on a pupil thing. She's got like, I've never seen it before, but she's got, and it is quite a unique thing. But if there are parents, but it does make me question if she is living an everyday life, are the school questioning it? If she's going to school, are the school wondering? Have the school got social services involved? It's a big thing, isn't it? Or is she? I remember a couple of years ago there was this girl that came back from years and years and years ago, and she was in a dark cellar for 19, 20 years, locked there, and that she finally escaped. Is it that sort of story? But let's go back onto parenting a little bit. I do agree with you, Mike. We can't really discuss a lot about Madeleine McCann, but let's go back on parenting a bit. Now, if you go down the world of adoption, which I've looked into a couple of times, there are many steps that you have got to take to be accepted as a parent to adopt. It's a very long process. It's not a quick 5-minute thing. It's a very long process. In an ideal world, in an absolute ideal world, do you think there needs to be a process for people that are pregnant to go down such a process of describing what pregnancy is all about, talking about? I know there's the midwife, I get that, the midwife is there, but actually, do we need to be more educated before we start thinking about the land of children? Claire, let's go to you.
Well, I was late to motherhood. You know, I always wanted children, but because I did know what it was all about. But I just think in today's society, I don't really think the young children, you know, they just want a baby, and they just go and get a baby because then they can go and get a house, and, you know, their friend's got a baby and they've got a house, and, you know, they can all do, you know, what they want to do, and then they want another baby, and, you know, they'll get another father.
I remember there was a spate a few years ago, quite a few years ago, of young girls wanting a baby as like an accessory. It's like, oh yeah, you look really good when you're pushing the pram with a baby. But it's like, what happens when that baby grows up? Are you going to be mentally and physically going to be able to support that child? You're a child having a child, and you've got to support that child throughout the rest of its life. So it was just, at one point, it was just a case of, oh, I've got this baby, it's my accessory kind of thing at one point. And I do know of a couple of people whose children had kids really young, and they had their kids taken off them because they couldn't cope. They thought having a baby was just a breeze. All it was pushing the pram around and showing your baby off. That's all they thought it was. They just treated the baby like an accessory. So
do you think we are educated enough? Do you think when it comes to stories like that, do you think that actually we need to go back into the education world? Because I do know that we're taught about the birds and the bees and all of that in education, but there's this new system that I've heard of taking an electronic baby home with you for a weekend, where you have to look after this baby, and you have to change its nappy, and you have to get up when it cries.
I was just about to say, Nick, that needs to be brought in. They do that on the reality show Love Island. The couples have a baby, well, they don't have a baby, but, you know, they have one for the night, and, you know, these are like Adonises and what have you, and then they're going, oh my gosh, you know, and you don't know. And I know every baby's different, but they all cry, they all keep you up all night, they all do the same thing, and it is a shock to the system. You know what I mean? And like you say, they are a baby, then they go to a toddler, and then you get the naughty 2s, the naughty 3s, 4s, 5s, the teenagers, and, you know, it's like a puppy. They are not for Christmas, they're for life. And that's the same with a child, but it's not a life of a dog span. You've got them for hundreds of years or however long they last.
It seems like that sometimes, doesn't it?
And I just don't think that, you know, they realise this, and I don't know why. So yes, going back to the that baby, bring it home. Yeah, definitely. Good
It's the
idea.
joys of being an uncle, of having all the fun stuff. I had him round yesterday, actually, chalking in the garden and bubbles and all of that, and then going, time to go home.
See, I could
Like,
do that
you
with
know,
my.
like, "Mummy, see you later,
I do-
bye."
I do that with my niece and nephews. It's like, you know, my daughter, she turns 18 this year, so she does her own thing. I don't have to worry about little kids until I go around to my friends, or my nieces and nephew comes along, and I'm going, oh damn, what do I do with little kids? I don't know what to do with toddlers anymore because
Yeah.
I'm out of practice. So
Have you
you know,
also, though,
make
tell
it
us
up
what
as I go
you
along.
tell us what you guys think out there. Do you think we did turn away from the parents too fast? Do you think that we need to be more educated when it comes to having a child? Should we be doing more? And should more help be out there? Tell us what you think. There are many platforms, as you know, as I try and tell you each week. There's a Facebook page and group. There's Instagram, there's TikTok. There's looselinks@gmail.com, and there's www.looselinks.co.uk. Please, please, please join in with our polls. We did have a couple that I wanted to bring up, actually, the only couple that did it, so I am going to embarrass them. We did a love topic the other week about, just talk among yourselves while I find it, about love. Can you really find love on the internet? Is it possible to find love on the internet? And I just thought I'd put it out there and say, can anybody share with us if you've had? We have that much posted on the page now, though. Honestly, it's unreal. Let me just see if I can find it. Just talk.
Did one of you two do the posts?
No, well, I did the post, and it was on. Do you think more of it? Here we go. Insight. So. Cam Donald, hi, if you're watching. Me and my wife met online, plenty of fish, 9 years ago, and are now married. I'll try and share the picture later, but they shared their love story of meeting online.
Yeah,
So,
I think I was a panelist on that show when we was talking about online dating.
who?
I think I was on that show.
Oh, was you? Yeah.
I think I was on there talking about online dating.
Congratulations, and thank you for sharing your love story. Thank you very, very much for sharing that with us. Let's go on to a bit of celebrity world now. Laura Whitmore claps back at the Love Island contestant who said she is a bad presenter. Love Island 2020 star Rachel Flynn was reflecting on her time in the villa and made it clear she is no fan of Laura's presenting skills, promoting a fascist defence from the Whitmore herself. So this got me thinking about women supporting women, and are men equal now to women nowadays when it comes to the world of work? So Claire, do you agree the world of work, women are still not level with men when it comes to working?
No, not all the time, I don't. But then, like you just previously said, women thingy women. That Rachel, personally, was just jealous. That's all I'm going to say about her. But I think it's really difficult because there's a lot of women, you know, out there now that are bosses and, you know, stand proud and that. But the trouble is, there's still a lot of men who are prejudiced against women being a boss because they just can't think, no, well, a woman's place is in the kitchen. You know, even in the time of 2022, you know, they can't understand that there can be women leaders and bosses. And as I say, it's not everyone, because as I said, there's a lot of married people who the husband looks after the children because the wife goes to work because she can earn more money. You know, is it right or wrong? For me, I think if they're good at what they do, I don't care if it's a man or a woman. You know, if they're in that position, then good on them. And, you know, carry on. Why?
Sam, do you think we're good at sticking up for our own sex? when it comes to the world of, well, there's men. I can't just say men and women
I
anymore.
think it depends, because sometimes you know, people say people will go on about like predators are all male. It's like, well, no, they're not all males. There are some males who are victims. They're not always the predators. And so, you know, I think it just depends on the situation. So, I mean, for me, you know, I believe in equal rights. I believe that, you know, everyone should be treated equally. But I don't understand. I mean, back in the 90s, when we had the girl power, back in the 90s, that drove me insane.
It's taking me back to Spice Girls and dancing in the bedroom.
My God.
Just got it.
Yes, I can just see, at the moment, all I'm seeing is the Union Jack dress right now. In my mind, that's all I'm seeing right now. But the girl power movement back in the 90s, I mean, yes, that helps women to kind of move forward in the world and that, but at the end of the day, if someone's going to be sexist, if someone's going to pull you up because you're male, because you're female, the people are going to do it because, again, it boils down to jealousy. It boils down to the fact that some people think that women can't do the same as men, or men can't do the same as women. So I think it just depends on where you're looking as to whether, you know.
Why did it annoy you, Sam? I'm a bit confused about that. Why did it drive you mad?
First, it was fine. Okay, at first, you know, I was like, oh yeah, okay, girl power, girl power. And every time I turned on the TV, it was girl power, and I'm like, going, okay, now I'm getting it's getting a little bit much. I'm one of these, I don't like things like that, you know, if it's just like, you know, a quick thing, you know, like a quick, what do you call them?
Well, okay, let's go on the other side of the fence then. Would you moan about a boy band like that?
It depends how annoying they're going to be with it.
Do you know what I mean? Because there's many successful boy bands.
If they were going to go boy power, I mean, you know, there's some people out there that are saying, oh, it's got to be boy power, and it's like boy power versus girl power. I don't think it should be. It shouldn't be boy power. It shouldn't be girl power. It should be people power. You know, everyone should be working together.
Love it.
Yeah, again, though, you're going girl power and you're going like the Spice Girls, but then I think that was all for ratings, you know, for record sales and that, you know.
It worked.
You had got these girls, you know, who all had their own individual personality, and look how far they've come, if they've been in the limelight or they haven't, or because, and that sticks with them, you know, girl power. Very annoying, maybe.
The way everybody's doing that.
But you know, look where they are today. Okay,
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they can sing or they can't sing, but you know, they had catchy tunes, didn't they? So you don't really have to.
To my mind, anyway, I'm a 90s baby. To my mind, I think they were the first women to stand up for women. I think actually there was. Oh, go on, Mike. Tell me.
You're a 90s baby?
Yeah.
I thought you were born
trying to say, Mike Curtis?
I thought you were born in the 80s. You mean you were a 90s child? Don't you pull that one, Nicholas?
1990, I was born.
Oh, you were just
I was a teenager by then.
90s. I can't believe Mike thought I was right. That's the end of the show. Thanks this week. Take care, everybody. We will get rid of some people. We will. Mike, let's go back to relationships then. So when you think about personal relationships between, we're not talking about friendship here. We're talking about love relationship. Do you think it's important to keep you as independent as well as being together?
I can say when I was working at McDonald's, I started seeing Alicia's dad when we were both working there. And whilst we were together, he got promoted to management. Now that changed things, the dynamic between us at work, because people started treating me differently. It was like, well, he can do it, so why can't you? He's doing that, so why can't you do that? It's like, I'm not him. And it was always, people were always comparing, because we were an item, and he was there like 3.5 years longer than I was, and a lot more experience. I was always being compared to him because we lived together, we were engaged and everything else. And for me, you know, it's something that I've always said, never work with your partner or family for that matter.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I would never be able to work with my husband. He would drive me absolutely insane. and I'd like to think that I wouldn't we are balanced, we are equal, but I'm in charge in our relationship. His job is to do as he's told. So that really is how it's going to be, if I'm honest with you, or with any person that I get with. They're going to have to have a really strong back to sounding really wrong. Can I just say that's not the appropriate term? They need really broad shoulders to yeah, because I'm quite a strong personality. But can I just say one thing though, you know, just before we move on, I'm really sort of intrigued, Sam, by your views really of and I know you sort of were referring to the Spice Girls and like girl power. You know, I'm a bit perplexed by it actually, because I don't know if it's because I knew we were going to be discussing it this week, but it seems to be that everywhere this week I've seen there's been something about the liberation of women. And do you know, I have to say, I have never in my entire life ever actually realised how undervalued in some areas and unappreciated and how discriminated women are. You know, if you look at the Houses of Parliament at the moment, you know, this morning there was a news article, wasn't there, about that, and they're looking into that in terms of sexual harassment. You know, and you think about, don't you, like we talk about sexual harassment as like man to woman, and then we start to build it up, and it could be, I don't know, a social situation where it's a total stranger to the woman. You know, so let's gender, then situation, then you look at organisation and profession. Well, if actually we're going to look at Parliament at this level, these are people that are leading the country. So actually there's something in our democracy that's absolutely built in. And it's just so concerning. I've also been working with a female health provider this week in terms of safeguarding children and sort of looking at kind of their common issues and themes and listening to some of the situations that they have around stigma and judgment around accessing the freedom to choose a form of interception for pregnancy, so abortion, you know, and it's the stigma that they see in terms of culture, the stigma that they see in terms of age, even in terms of professional women that feel it's still very much like the days of Dickensian, where they'd sneak down a back alley and they'd speak with some drunk woman who do an horrific act to help them be relieved of child. And I just think, oh my God, it's like what you were saying, Claire, you know, in 2022, you know, what I will say about the Spice Girls, yeah, they took on very stereotypical stigma, and you can see sort of other girl bands, Destiny's Child, Little Mix, blah, 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 blah. But I do think there is something about that we have to understand in today's society, that the white, and I'm not going to go into race, but it is true, the white middle class to first class man in high power, there is still disadvantage, and it's really sad to see our mums, our sisters, let's not just look at them in terms of gender, our aunts, our friends being treated like this. You know, women in power. I mean, I forget who's the lady that's been accused of taking on the, what's she called? She crossed her legs, and it's linked to a film, isn't it? A really famous film.
Basic Instinct.
Yeah, the lady, you know, that really confident, powerful female. She's an MP. I don't know. I'm not very good with politics. It's I forget her name. But she's yeah, she's. Do you know who I mean, Claire?
No, sorry.
Oh, for God's
I knew
sake.
the film, but I didn't know.
So anyway, look her up, but she's Labour. But long story short, she's been accused of being sexualised in the Houses of Parliament, all because she's crossed her legs. I mean, just for God's sake, get a grip. And for a start, if that is what's turning them men on, by Lord, they need to go out there and experience the world.
You see, the trouble is, especially in Parliament, and it's like, I say footballers, it's the power, you know, they're getting all this money and it goes to the head. They think they're superior, you know. This is me personally, who, you know, works my absolute off, and, you know, I do absolutely love the job, but, you know, if I got half of what they got and I put 100% into Ida, and I'm not saying they don't, but they think because that they are working for, you know, Parliament, or they're a footballer, that they have special rules and they're better than everybody else and they can do what they want.
I hate that anybody can be seen as an object.
Yeah.
Man, woman, child,
Yeah.
beast, anything. No one's an object, are they?
No.
They all come with an identity. They all come with the freedom of speech.
But do you feel that when we do become connected to somebody, yes, there's compromise. I completely get compromise. But do you think that we do lose a little bit of independent us? Because in my eyes, I said it many times, I had an epiphany at 30 and my life completely changed, and it was 30. And I remember going on a date weeks and weeks ago now, when I met him, and it was fine and it was fantastic, and he was a little bit older than me but didn't look older. Went away, told him everything. He told me what he was looking for a relationship, and when I was saying what I was looking for a relationship, I knew there was something not quite right, because he'd be like that. Okay, yeah, okay. So we get to the end of the day, and I would say, oh, thank you very much.
Nick, can I just ask where we're going? Because isn't this is this a family show?
Yeah,
we're building
panic.
to the end of the day. I'm
Don't
blushing
worry.
here for you.
And
He's always want to lower the tone.
And it is Nick normally.
Second date, shall we go for a second date? And I got a text message when I got home saying, actually, I don't want a second date because you're too independent for me. And that just blew my mind. That was just like, are people nowadays looking for people in a relationship to be their absolute everything? And I think when I was in my 20s, yes, that was me. I turned every partner that walked into my life, won't name them, but turned every partner that walked into my life into everything. And I just wouldn't do it anymore. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want them to be by my side 24/7. And I think I've said it before on the show. I think it's really important that you hit 3 stages between, says the man that's single, but 3 stages of a relationship, and it works, and that's me, you, and us. And if you get rid of the you or the me for us, it's not healthy anymore.
It's not, because again, and it's like you're saying, you get rid of you, that means you're getting rid of your friends. Yeah. So, you know, you become not a recluse, but yeah, you've got you, and you know, you've got your friends, and off you go.
Can I just excuse Mike Cage's massive drinking glasses?
It makes me want to drink, and I promise you, I know it's a bank holiday, but this is just, I would not drink alcohol.
But the thing is, with your background being blurred, it's like it's blurring out the alcohol on your drink.
It's not alcohol, Sam, you can't say that. It makes me want to drink, because he's talking about his 1, 2, 3, and he's
right now.
And when he'll start talking about, you know, them being older, I think here he goes again. He'll be living. Is this age thing?
Anyway, going back. So,
Sorry.
You know, there's you two. You've got rid of you, and then, you know, for some reason you split up, and then there's just you.
Yeah.
You know, your friends you've turned your back on your friends. You know, so unless they are really good friends that, you know, will allow you back in, and then
I had that.
Nothing.
I had that with one particular relationship. One friend described it perfectly. I was basically his sex slave that was chained to the sink. That's what I was. That's all I was. And then I was like, well, yeah, that does pretty much sum it up. There's no actual relationship. It was toxic, very toxic.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know where we were going. So sorry, Sam. I thought you were building to. Sorry. Go on. Interject. Keep going.
I'm not going that way. Like we said earlier, it's a family show.
Yeah.
But because of him, I lost a lot of friends. A lot of friends well, he kind of isolated me away from all of my friends, male friends in particular. I had a few male friends, and male friends in particular, I wasn't allowed to have male friends unless they were his friends. So, you know, I know where you're coming from when you say that, Claire, that, you know, you have there's two of us, and then when you're on your own and all your friends have gone. But I was lucky enough that a few of my friends allowed me back into their lives. So I was quite lucky in a way. But now I look back, I realise that relationship was not healthy at all. But I was young and naive, you know.
I nearly stopped the recording then, Sam. My heart literally went in my mouth when you said the sentence. I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa, we're not going down that road.
That is literally how my friend described our relationship.
Right,
That's
let's slowly
exactly
move
how-
on from that.
That's another show, Nick. If you want to
Yeah,
join us,
that's the late, late
Can I come
show.
on? Can I come on the Late Late Show?
That was after our show, that is.
Well, actually, for series 4, we are thinking about doing a Late Late Show on the month. So get prepared. You might be pulled for the Late Late Show. So we'll be doing a Late Late Show where we can do an after 9 o'clock version. But we'll stay family orientated here. But Mike, do you think jealousy is healthy?
Yes.
And that's
In a
the end of
nutshell.
that. Thanks very much.
Yes, that's a straightforward answer. Yes, I think it's healthy. I think it has to be controlled. Yeah, but I think it's really good to have, you know, it's really nice to know, like, you know, I've got to be really careful here. But what I'm saying is it's really nice to know, isn't it, that there's that sort of, when you're on the dance floor and you're doing girl power and you can see and you think, yeah, you know, you want me. And that sounds really arrogant. It does, but it isn't. It's about sometimes having that uber strong. I'm all for confidence this week. This is what I'm saying, ladies. You want to just be liberal and free. You be liberal and free. I'll be there with you. It's just we've just got to keep this. You know, we've just got to move into this 21st century attitude. And so yes, I do. I think it is healthy to have. I think, you know, I'm not speaking sort of Sam's situation. I think, you know, that's obviously very challenging and distressing, Sam, what you've experienced, but I think I think it's jealousy in kind of a sexual passion way, not a domineering, unhealthy, degrading manner. Does that make sense? I even think it's good to have jealousy in like a normal situation. In, you know, I think a bit of jealousy, and it is what Sam says. It's only it's an ugly emotion, isn't it? Let's be honest. I'm speaking a little bit.
It can be. I think, you know, small amount of jealousy. I think it is healthy because, you know, it's what keeps us competing with each other. It's like, well, she's done that, so I'm going to try this. You know, it gives us that edge to compete against each other.
Yeah.
So I do think jealousy in small amounts, but there is a line that you cross when it gets too much.
Yeah, I mean, jealousy can be harmful, can't it? You know, I know we've discussed that, but look at it in terms of a work situation. I remember years ago working in a school, and the professional sort of same level as me was just so incredibly jealous, constantly toxic, and it just ruined everything. You know, jealousy can be a really dangerous emotion. So, you know, but you know what? I think the good thing is to name it and challenge it if you are seeing it, because I think a lot of people don't. Because I don't think, especially in adults, I think children do. You hear children say, "Oh, he's jealous of me. That's why it is," and you sort of can get locked into, I think, as an adult thinking.
But I think a lot of it is back to the parents as well, because sometimes kids will come home saying, "Oh, so and so said this to me, so and so said that to me, so and so," and you know they complain about it. So don't worry about it. They're just jealous of you. And then they go to school and they're like, "My mum says that you're just jealous of me," you know. And then that's a whole new thing.
I think you've got to be on the same page. I think you've got to be on the same page, especially when it comes to a partner. I think there's got to be an understanding between you both. I don't think I've been with people that have deliberately tried to hurt jealousy with me, and I think you've got to be on the same page when it comes to, okay, you're stood at the bar talking to someone and I trust you, so I'll stand at the bar talking to someone.
Oh, God.
You have to trust me. Do you know what I mean? I think because it can very much go like that. It can very much and turn horrible. Jealousy, sort of. Now, what do you think, Claire? You've been very quiet on this subject.
How can I get a word in edgeways with you three? You've seen me, and then you're all going like that. I'm going, okay. But anyway, going back to the Laura and the Rachel situation, personally, I think Rachel is just jealous, totally jealous, because I'm not being funny. Laura, that was her job. Okay, her husband is the narrator. But okay, he could have put a good word in for her, but she would have to have had an interview. Do you know what I mean? They would have just said, "Oh yeah, it's
auditions."
Yeah, you know, oh yeah, my missus, she wants a job. But I think she's good at what she does. She's got the banter and everything, and I just think she didn't like her for whatever reason, and it was jealousy. And again, you're talking Love Island. You're talking all they want is to be famous. So yeah, let's put a dig into Laura. And then she'll get some public. Hold
on, guys! I've just got a text saying that we need to move on. So, if you guys think that jealousy is healthy in a relationship, please let us know. And also, do you think women and men are on key now? Do you think we're actually there in the year of 2022, or have we still got a long way to go? Our final subject this evening is to do with Chris Clark himself. Good evening, Chris, who's one of our panelists on the panel. Legendary puppet fox Basil Brush found himself slipping the cocktail menu at the bar in Sleaford as he visited Lincolnshire for a filming for a Christmas charity single music video. The icon Basil Brush ended up at the Watergate Yard in Sleaford, along with his good friend Mr. Bobby, and the two were reunited for a big project in Lincolnshire this week. Watergate Yard played host to the famous children's television pair on Thursday, as some of the BBC's most recognisable characters were in the country to film to a special music video. So, all our memories of childhood are coming back. But Sam, do you love it when something takes you back to childhood?
I do, because I kind of look back and I go, you know what, those were days were so much simpler, you know. I know that, you know, a lot of things are coming back from like the 80s and 90s, the TV that I watched in the 80s and 90s, you know. I know a lot of stuff's coming back. I even have a pair of tights with Funshine Bear all over, because I was obsessed with Funshine Bear from Care Bears. I actually have a pair of tights with Funshine Bear all over them, you know. So, and my mask, my mask, it has Rainbow Bright on it, on her Rainbow Bright horse, you know. So I love all the nostalgia, and I think it just takes me back to a time when things were much simpler. And I also think it was a lot better time, because we didn't have the things of like the internet and things like that. We didn't have all this social media, and I think, you know, that we're kind of like one of the few, you know, the last generations to actually be brought up without having your baby pictures blown all over the internet, you know.
Oh, goodness. Honestly,
because nowadays all you see is children getting into things, children screaming at their parents and what have you. I'm so glad I don't live in a world where we had this internet. If this internet was about when I was younger, my mum wouldn't have been able to keep me and my brothers off the internet. She would have been posting us up all the time every time we got into trouble.
Do you like a
So-
good children film, Claire? Are you a bit of a Disney fan or a bit of a old school children's film? Do you love it?
Come on, talking up to me, who dresses up as a chicken, I love it. I do like the old ones, and of course I'm a lot older than the rest of the panel, so of course I go back a few further, and you probably won't remember. There's somebody at the door. There's
No.
somebody at the door. Got bags?
No.
Yes.
There you go. You see.
Oh, I used to watch.
We keep
Just went.
losing Sam tonight.
Anyway,
Keep going.
it's just like the TV programs.
Yeah.
Okay, not necessarily the films, but everything back then was just so innocent. And like you say, it all goes back to, the internet and all that. We didn't have all that. We was allowed out till the lights came on. We
had 4 channels.
4 channels. We had 10p in a pocket case we needed to use the phone.
I remember that.
I know I sound old, but anyway, I liked my childhood, because I could be a child. But I think nowadays it's so difficult for the children because there is just so much comparing, like you've said, jealousy, even in as little as the ones that I teach, 3 and 4 years old.
And we go to our psychological question. So we can only go to one panel member on the panel to answer this final question. And I wonder who that would be. Mr. Mike Curtis, do you believe we all have an inner child?
I do. Yeah, I think everybody has an inner child that comes out at times, and I think it's good because it's good for human beings to be playful. And I think that's what that does. It brings out that playful side and that curiosity and that ability to accept as well, because I think children are very accepting. I know that there's a lot of sort of views of how they are today and how they might have been back when the telly and yes, I know, I remember Rainbow, but it's good. It's good. I think everyone has an inner child. It's it just depends how you want to let him or her or they out.
I think it goes, to be honest, Mike, as well, in my experience, because I've only really come to this term in the last year about inner child, really, and I think it goes more to the expense of everyday life. So I've been known in the office when I've had a cry or been upset or had a bit of a sad day, or if I have a bit of a sad day, I go back to the inner child. So what I mean is, if I feel like I need a cuddle, there's a blanket on the sofa with nice things on around me, like candles and the favourite TV film. When I've gone like that to somebody and somebody said to me, "Are you all right?" I've almost gone, "Don't worry, it's just the inner child having a tantrum. I'm just trying to deal with him now." So I think we do see and use the inner child, and I think it's really important that everybody recognises that we've got that we have to go back sometimes. Sometimes it's hard work being an adult.
Definitely.
And we have to go back to treating that inner child and looking after that child within us. Do you agree? Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, there's some days
tonight.
There's some days.
You brought us in on bank holiday, Nick.
You're all full of it this evening, aren't you? You're all like, yeah, now can you just end the show, Nick, so we can all just go out? That's what you're all thinking, I know you are. Well, as you can see, my panellists want to stay this evening, but unfortunately, it's the end of the show. So it's been a blast from the past, but with girl power and shouting it from the rooftops. That's Claire Brown in May. Get out of it, Mike. It's not you yet. Also, the one that likes to keep the sensible head on, that's Sam J. Hitwell. And with a bit of boom boom in our lives, that's Mike Curtis. See you next week for a brand new episode with a brand new panel. And we'll talk about the Late Late Show a little bit more, so you're all aware of it, because panelists aren't even aware of it yet. So it will be spread out this week, and we shall let you know next week. Have a fantastic loose week, and we will see you same time, same place next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Good night and God bless. Good night.
Good night.